You've always tracked your numbers in Excel, and now you've just opened up your brand new Power BI report, and the number is different. So you can't really confidently use either one. Do you trust your dashboard or the spreadsheet that you built yourself? Do you go back to the BI team and wait 3 days for an answer that you probably needed this morning? This is actually really common, and it almost always comes down to one of four things. By the end of this video, you're going to know which one it is for you and how to avoid this whole problem going forward. The first thing to check before anything else is the thing that most people look past. They go straight to the numbers or start blaming the formula, when the answer might actually just be at the top of the screen. See, the two numbers might not even be describing the same moment of time. Say you pulled your revenue into Excel on a Monday afternoon, but maybe Power BI last refreshed that morning. A few transactions were processed in between those 2 points, and now that they're in your spreadsheet, but they're not yet in the Power BI report. It's counting the same thing, but a few hours apart. Because Power BI doesn't usually show live data, it refreshes on a schedule. It could be every morning, it could be once a week. And your Excel is also a snapshot, but of the moment that you pulled it, and it won't update. So before you question anything else, check the refresh timestamp. It's usually right at the top of the report in this drop down, or you can get it from the report details. If those two time periods don't line up, the case is probably closed and you haven't even had to ask anyone else. Right, but what if the timing checks out and the refresh lines up with when you pull the Excel, but the numbers are still different? Well, what if revenue in your spreadsheet and revenue in Power BI is not actually calculating the same thing? Say, for example, your Excel uses a sum formula, adding up a column for an entire month. Well, that seems pretty straightforward, but what if the Power BI version of the same number excludes returns or pending invoices? Maybe it handles sales tax differently. It depends entirely what was agreed on when the report was built. Because Power BI metrics are not usually just a raw total. They are defined calculations that should be agreed by all the stakeholders when the report is being built. What that means is that every team and every report is working from the same assumptions and the same number, working the same way. And that definition might include rules that your Excel formula isn't accounting for. So when you get a different answer in Excel, that might not be the report being wrong. It's just that the two different calculations are different, both technically valid, but not the same. Some reports have a definitions page, a dedicated tab that lists every metric that explains exactly what's included or excluded. If yours has one, that's going to be your first stop. And if it doesn't, it might be worth asking whoever built the report to include it, because it's going to mean that everyone is working from the same definitions, singing from the same hymn sheet, definitions report page. You know what I mean. Because now that the timing is fine and you've got definitions that match, then if it's still different, you're probably starting to question yourself. But we have to consider that maybe Power BI is just not showing you all the data, because you might be looking at a report that says global revenue. But what if there's a filter over to the side that's limiting your data to just the UK? Well, potentially that could even be turned on by mistake, and that it can happen. So I want to make sure that you know where you would see that in that filter pane. The filter pane is just behind an icon, usually on the right hand side. And most people never even open it. But inside can be filters that are set at a visual level, page level, or even across the entire report. Any of those could be narrowing your data without realizing it. But there's another layer beyond that, one you actually can't find in the filter pane at all. It's called row level security. It's a permission setting that controls what data you can see based on who you are. So two people could look at the same report with the same filters but see different numbers. Both are correct, but they're both just each seeing the data that they're authorized to view. And that one is invisible by design. You won't know it's there unless you ask. So there's two things then. We need to open the filter pane before you compare any numbers every time. It takes a second. And if a colleague is looking at the same report and getting a different number, ask the report owner if row level security is applied. You can find out who that is from the same place that you got the refresh timestamp. One quick question could explain something that you would otherwise spend days trying to work out. And look, I know all of these checks and I still get caught out. I once sent an email with a number from an Excel and then opened the Power BI report and it was different. And you know that moment where you suddenly think, oh my gosh, do I need to recall the email? Now, luckily I caught it and actually I knew why. But I know what a lot of people would automatically do, which is go and pull the data into Excel so they can compare it properly. And surely that's right, right? But actually, when you export data from behind a visual into Excel, then you could run a sum and actually find that you get a lower total. The report's not wrong. Your export could be missing data because exporting from Power BI visuals actually has a row limit, typically about 150,000 rows. So when you open what looks like a full data set and you run your formulas, then you get a number that might be working off an incomplete data set. The export is not the safety net that you necessarily thought it was. Luckily, there's a much better way. It's called Analyse in Excel. And the key difference is that this isn't an export, it's a live connection. It creates a pivot table in Excel directly connecting to the same data that's used in the Power BI data model. Literally the same data, calculations, and filters. If you can't see the option, the report owner might need to switch it on before it appears for you. But you already know how to find them. It's up with the refresh timestamp. So now you're not comparing two separate versions of data anymore. You're looking at the same one, just through a different window. That should mean now that you always get matching numbers, so that you absolutely trust those numbers. And if they don't quite match up, you know exactly what to check. But if you're still opening the same report every week and having to set up the same filters again and again just to see the data that matters to you, that's a different kind of frustration. And the thing is, fixing that with a set view is really simple. What most people don't realize is actually what unlocks afterwards. So why don't I show you the next video?